Well, hello, crafters. Big D here, and not a lot going on right now. So we're just kind of going through some boxes of backlog and getting stuff built up. And getting it out of the log so that I can get my extra sprues all chucked into my leftover boxes. I realized I had a absolute metric load of these Necrons. Ugh. Good evening, Tina. Yeah, unfortunately, I just haven't been. I haven't really seen much of nothing going on the GW site lately. I mean, they're talking about these elves and there's a bunch of kill team stuff coming out, and I'm excited for that. But real life has just had so many things going on. I haven't actually had a lot of hobby time myself, so I don't want a lot of uninterrupted hobby time. So building up some of these Necrons that I had lying around was probably the best thing I can do because I don't want to try painting anything right now, as I can't promise I'll be at my desk for longer than 5 or 10 minutes at a time. The new avatar is going to be cool. There's so many really cool figures coming out. It makes me want to play Eldar. It's not an army I'm going to be looking at heavily. I've got some Eldar. Mainly going to be just there for a Lady D to use with her stuff. I figure once she gets a break or whatnot so she can actually focus on painting, she actually wants to work on some Age of Sigmar stuff. So probably see a bunch of that pop up on our Instagram over the next week or two, hopefully. There's a Sisters Plus Night Haunt box coming out. And since she plays both those armies, we might be getting her that box to bolster both of her armies. And of course, we've got Adepticon coming up, and so all the big release stuff, all the big weekend sneak peeks they normally do, they held off with for a week because they want to show them off at Adepticon, rightfully so. Gotta hype your stuff. I mean, Adepticon is pretty much one of their bigger events now here in the States, now that we've got COVID restrictions handled. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to say COVID handled, but COVID restrictions seem to be not as limiting. Yeah, that's what Ben was telling me, Tina. I actually was hoping when you guys were out that one day, I was hoping to get over there and hang out with you that day. Just wasn't in the cards. I actually was going to be signed up for doing an Age of Sigmar tournament in a couple of weeks. I haven't had any time to practice or play or anything, so I feel rusty enough with my Age of Sigmar knowledge that I'm just gonna hold off on doing anything until I can get a couple games in with you and Ben and a couple other people. And in the meantime, just kind of get some of my backlog cleared out. Like originally, these Necrons were supposed to be my 2022 New Year, New Army. But then I started focusing on the Tau. So I'm not going to paint these guys right off the bat. They're going to go over into the painting queue. But I want to get them built. There we go. I've been debating their build and what I was going to do for their basing. And now that I realize what I do for their basing, I know I can just glue them down because what's going to go on their base is going to be, it's like a terrain backlog. Like I said, the only reason I'm not painting right now is that other than being on the show, I haven't been at my bench much. Trying to get a bunch of things taken care of. I have a terrain backlog, as you well know, trying to bust me out on. Dude, no, I have a terrain backlog of painting to do. I have a sister's army. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time at my bench lately. A lot of irons in the fire. So, and because I can build pretty much undistractedly in the middle of other things, I can put it down and walk away with it anytime. I don't mind building in the middle of it, but when I do the terrain, hey, Big Bro, how are ya, my man? You big lovely man, you. No worries, Nick. You'll have the terrain just in time for your wedding. No, I should have it actually. Do. Hello there, Mythos, my guy. So yeah, just trying to throw these guys down on their bases, get the last of them built, and get them out of the one area and get them into the secondary area out of the backlog. Try and clear some room so I can get the airbrush set up in the area I want it to be, and I can knock out the rest of the big painting I got to get done. Got to make that thing work for me. Yeah. That's why I stopped. It's actually why I stopped. I should have it done by, I don't know. I need to get some painting time done, but I got to have time for it. I've had a few things going on lately. hopefully I get the last set straightened out and be ready to take care of my business. Yeah, he's giving me heck. He's 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 giving it to me hard, and he deserves it. I honestly, I should have that stuff done for him a while ago. I got into an anti-painting funk for a bit there, and I basically got halfway through the project and stopped, and then I get stuck into a couple other projects, and then I had real life happen. So, but you know, I jokingly say I don't feel bad about it, but I actually really do. Honestly, it bothers me. Um, because, he put some faith in me and I fell down on the job. Well, I mean, you got an excuse, but man, you're getting married. You get married. Finally getting married. You're finally getting married. Um, I'm just trying to clear all this crap up so I can get some space cleared out. I'm actually, like I said, what we're trying to do is we are trying to clear a bunch of our own backlogs to clear up extra space because Lady D and I are planning on doing a massive reorganization of a big portion of the house. And part of that will actually involve the moving of the studio into a different room. So, trying to eliminate the amount of things that I actually have to move multiple times. Oh. So what is going on? Well, as I continue about, like I said, I'm building. 6 square inches of workspace. Yeah. And you're dead on there. You're dead on there, Mythos. I've talked about it before, and I don't mind. I'll address it again because I mean it's one of those things that if you don't talk about it, it turns back into a stigma. Um, I suffer from depression. I suffer from clinical depression, and I get into funks, and I get into funks where I don't. I can't focus. I can't put my things together. I can't get together. I can build, and that's about it. And then when I get in those deep funks, I have a hard time focusing. It was a big part of COVID, and its effect on me was the fact that I burned myself out the first year, and then when I got into a bad swing the following year, which would have been last year, 2021, I had a hard time digging myself out of it. That's why there actually wasn't a lot of content on my channel last year. I just kind of fell into this pit of I don't want to do much anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to put any effort into anything. And it took about 9 months to dig that completely out. I got out of it a bit by bit by bit. And part of it was spending some time taking care of me. And I'm not out of that funk. I mean, I'm trying to get weekly stuff up. I've got another video queued up that'll be posted on Sunday. Although I might post it up on Thursday or Friday if I can get to the editing before that point. I've come to realize a really weird thing about myself. That's something I would never thought I would have said after being a gamer for 40 some odd years. I don't really enjoy role-playing games anymore. I like talking about them. I like theory crafting with them, and I like, talking about campaign ideas for story ideas. But I don't actually enjoy playing them much anymore. And unfortunately, I've been involved in a couple role-playing games, and some of them have kind of really gotten into the back of my head. And it's like I'm one of them I've been running, and I've been letting it stress me the hell out because it's like I don't really want to do this, but I've made commitments. It's almost over, and I'll finish it up. But I start to dread having that social interaction time rather than enjoy it. And I realized why I don't enjoy it anymore. It's too much. It's too much fantasy and pretend and stepping out of my own world. Um, and to be honest, I really like where I am as a person, where I am in the real world these days. I'd rather write stories to share them to other people than try and direct a story that I have to step out of to do. I don't know if that makes any sense. Um, I enjoy playing games, like games where I can sit and have a beer, have a sandwich while I'm playing, and I'm me the whole time, which is why I really, really started to really dig into board games and tabletop gaming and wargaming. Um, a lot of my local friends know I have a weekly D&D game that kind of eats up my entire Friday and Saturday, one weekend a month. And I'm really seriously thinking about talking to my friends that I run that weekend with, and I've been doing this for close to 20 years. I'm really thinking about pulling them aside and going, guys, I think I need to bail on this. I'm really not enjoying this anymore. And it's tough because the four of the friends that I do that with, that's the only time I ever see them, is that one weekend a month. So it's a tough realization that I'd rather play. What's that you hear that D is selling stuff off? That actually isn't incorrect. The thing is, I'm not selling off any of my Warhammer stuff, but I am. After 40 years of collecting D&D books and independent gaming books and other role-playing systems, I'm actually thinking about bailing on a lot of it. Like that bookshelf you see behind me, this entire shelf right here, that's all just White Wolf games. That's Exalted, and I think this shelf right here, that's my D&D stuff. And then the shelf that you can't see because it's right here is all my mainstream White Wolf stuff. And I think before the year is out, this shelf, and this shelf are going to be emptied. So if I can't find a buyer like through eBay, I will take them into a half-price books and in lot and get rid of them because they're taking up space for things I'm never going to open up or use again. Talk to me about it, Mythos. I literally have, from the very first edition of Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse, I have every single book. Like, every single book. And Alex, you're hitting it on the head. That's what I want that space for. It's one of the reasons why we're moving these around. I want to get some models up on there. I want to get to doing some actual modeling, and get some of them stuff up. I want to do some diorama work. I have some really neat ideas for some modeling and for some dioramas. I have a World War II diorama I've been messing around with. Some drawing ideas on in my I have a CAD program that I can drop objects in, and I've been kind of rotating around and looking at building a kind of a neat World War II diorama. So it's a thing. I also want to get building some better terrain. I want to build a hive city for playing Kill Team in. So it's going to be a 22 by 30 map that's also 30 inches tall, and it's modular. So pieces swing out and you move figures through, and you play as you go deep into the city. You move pieces aside to get into the pieces. So these are things I want to do. These are the things I'm actually driven to and actually get my creativity going again. My creativity is coming back. It's taken a bit. And I'll admit, a big part of it has been the lovely Lady D's health. Her health, until she got that surgery, the last 6 months before her surgery, really wore on me. And I've talked to her about this. It really wore on me because it was like she was in pain all the time. She was miserable a lot of the time. She hurt and didn't want to interact a lot. She slept a lot or she was on meds a lot. And that sucks. Lady D and I really are a partnership. We really are a dedicated partnership of a couple. And when I lose that half, I lose a little bit of myself too. Let me see what you got there. It's funny for me. For me, it was D&D. My brother Al, he bought me my first D&D stuff for my 8th birthday from Russ's Hobby Shop. And D&D became my thing for a very long time. One in the military. And that's the difference in age between you and me, Mythos. Because I came out of the military. First year came out of the military and I went to Gen Con, and that was the year they introduced Vampire the Masquerade. So, and that was Gen Con when it was still here in town. So it was interesting. I was already into the whole D&D and role playing, and I got introduced to Vampire. I was like, oh, role playing monsters, role playing modern urban horror. Ooh, it's pretty cool. The problem is I was a goth kid, and every other goth kid, it was just monsters we be, less monsters we become, and I got burnt out on it real quick. But then Werewolf came out, and I found the system that was meant for me. Yes, Werewolf the Apocalypse. Nom nom. Best game ever. Let's just take the bad guys and eat them. It's a good time. So yeah, I'm on the mend. I'm doing a lot better. I mean, that's why I've been able to get my Imperium magazines out the last few weeks. Like I said, we're busy because we're trying to do some rearranging and figuring out how we're going to do this, and trying to get a grip on our life again now that she's mobile again. So after not having a lot of time with her, spending a lot of time with her, trying to spend more time with her, it eats up a lot of my free time as well. Yeah. And you're like a real person now, Phoenix. You're not just some girl. No, don't get me wrong. I love role-playing games. I love the concept of them. It's a really weird thing to say, but I think somewhere along the lines, I think I finally outgrew them. It's part of the same reason I'm not really driven to play a lot of the same video games I used to like. There's a lot of different kinds of video games I used to really, really love. And like none of them have any draw from me anymore. I have no desire to play MMOs anymore. I have no desire to play anything that I can't get up and just walk away from at any given time. Uh, Anything I can't just pause and walk away from, and something I'm not gonna, if I'm not there and paying attention, I'm gonna die. I mean, RTSs are like king for me because I can do a turn and I can build and paint a model, walk away, make a sandwich, come back an hour later. Oh, it's my turn again. Let me do my thing. That's the kind of thing I dig. I used to love the fighting games. I used to love the shooting games. I used to love first person shooters, and all those are just like not my thing anymore. But it is a very true statement. I had somebody say it to me before, and it tends to be very true. You get to a certain age, and suddenly, not do things just change, but like as a gamer, it's like I got back in war gaming, and I'm like, I really like this. This is great. This is wonderful. And somebody brought the idea of playing, historic war gaming. I'm like, nah, that's not my. Wait a minute, that's World War II. Yeah, I want to do that. So I want to get my World War II stuff built up. I want to do a series on painting those up. Because I want to actually paint them up the way my brother taught me to paint figures. So they're going to be a lot of like pin washes and oil washes. And I'm going to have these little tiny 15 millimeter figures, and they're going to look like, really. Yeah, I thought about that. That's the whole thing. That's why I've been hesitating on it. I'm going to be a little honest here. Mythos. I've been thinking about ditching this stuff for about 2 years now. I've been going back and forth on it. No, I don't want to. Yeah, I do. No, I don't want it. Yeah, I do. No, I don't want to. Why do I have them? Well, I love them. But why do I love them? Because I love collecting them. They remind me of gaming back in the old days. Am I going to play this game again? No. Yeah. So, yeah, we're still working on it. I mean, it's still not, tomorrow I'm just going to rush it out the house. No, but I think the first batch of stuff we're going to get rid of is the stuff I really don't have any desire of ever playing again and will never play again because it's just no. Like the first batch will be all my indie little games that I have 1 or 2 books for, and that's the whole system that I played once at a convention. Thought, oh, this is great, and dropped $20 on it. And then they filled up an entire this shelf for this entire shelf of books, like Hong Kong Action Theater and Spirits of Wushu and Nightlife and Ghostbusters and Paranoia and Twilight 2000 and a lot of the systems that I haven't played in years. Yeah, I really have. I mean, I've really kind of decided that I don't have room for everything in my house. I don't have room for everything. And rather than stick everything up in storage where it's just going to sit there until I'm dead because I'm going to forget about it, it's time to pass some of this stuff along to a younger generation of people that'll enjoy it. Ray is already like, well, Dad, if you're really going to get rid of your exalts and stuff, maybe I'll take it off your hands. I'm like, yeah, you get a job. You can take it off my hands. My D&D stuff needs to go. Honestly, because all my D&D stuff is 3rd and 3.5 and 2nd and 1st. And I'm never going to... I haven't played 1st edition D&D I haven't played 1st edition D&D since I was in the military. So it's been 30 years since I played 1st edition D&D. I haven't played 2nd edition D&D since 3.5 came out. Since 3 came out. So I haven't played 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons since the mid 2000s. Easily early mid 2000s. And I have played third edition recently. When you in geological recently. Yeah, and that's exactly it too, Commodore. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna take it upstairs. No, that's not out of my house. It's not out of my house. I want it out of my house. Yeah, I ran a 3.5 game just for giggles and grins. Like 5 years ago, we stopped running it. So this was probably like 7, 8 years ago until about 4 or 5 years ago. I ran that, and I was reminded of why I stopped running 3.5 because of how broken that system really is when you have players that don't mind munchkining it up. Ooh, ah. And I really enjoy 5th edition as a system. Speaking mechanically as a system, I enjoy 5th edition. I like what it brings to the table. I just think I've outgrown role-playing games. My wife's like, don't get rid of all of it yet, because you still got one story probably left in you. I probably do. I probably do. So at that point, I'll probably figure out a system to run it in. But it'll be, I don't know, something I got to think about. I like the mechanics in 5th edition. Honestly, Jess, we will talk about that. We'll talk about that one offline here, because yeah, when I say I have it all, I'm trying to think. I know for a fact I have every single werewolf book. I might be missing 1 or 2 additional supplements for vampire. Oh, superheroes, man. Okay, so I guess we're talking about role-playing games tonight. All right, superhero games. There's 3 I have played in the last 20 years ish. I've played a lot of them over the years. I think some of the best ones I've ever played are no longer in print and no longer exist. One of my favorite ones, it's so cheesy, it's so terrible, but it was so perfect for the perfect 4-colorness of it. The original Marvel superhero system was just a funny, ridiculous system. It was horribly underbalanced and overbalanced and jacked up, and some of the mechanics were ridiculous, but it played like a comic did. Villains and Vigilantes, another ancient system from the mid 80s, was a really fun beer and pretzels type superhero game. You could build some pretty crazy concepts because characters were rolled up completely randomly, and you could end up with the most bizarre combinations of stuff. I will never forget, I played a character named Krusty. I was the superhero Krusty. Krusty the Rock Lobster. He was a giant humanoid lobster. Krusty the Crustacean. Krusty the Rock Lobster. I had crustacean powers. Ridiculous character. Had a lot of fun with him. Had the Krusty cuffs. Had the Krusty mobile. It was a very silly character. In the mid 90s, White Wolf experimented with a superhero system called Aberrant. Much like everything else White Wolf did in that era, it was very dark. It was very dark and brutish and brutal. And the more powerful a superhero became, the less human he became. He became more of an aberrant. And the less human you became, the less empathy you had, the less ability you had to understand your interactions with people because they became beneath you like insects. So it was an interesting concept. It was really like super dark and super 90s superhero. It was definitely tactical belts with tactical pouches and shoulder pads superhero stuff. At the same time, there was a variation on the Palladium system. The Palladium is a system that gave us rifts. It gave us Palladium Fantasy. They had they had their own hero system. I forget what it was called. Magic. Oh my god. I'd ruin that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Mythos. But there's a Palladium-based superhero system. I think it's called Heroes Unlimited. That's what it is. Heroes Unlimited. It's very biased to making big, beefy dudes that punch people. But it's a pretty cool system. The mechanics are really cool. But it's a pretty cool system. Again, based on the same system that Rifts and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Palladium Fantasy are all based on. So it's a good system. GURPS was my choice for superheroes for a very long time. But it's a very mechanics driven. Same to go with the hero system or champions. I forget which they call it now, but that one you had to have a degree in math to understand some of the build concepts. But once your characters were built, it was a pretty solid system. It really allowed you to do any kind of superhero. That's one I played a lot of in the 90s. I've heard lately there's a system called Mutants and Masterminds that's really good. I haven't personally played it because I haven't played a superhero game since the Plague Child was in diapers. I think that was the last time I actually played in a superhero game. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem I had. The problem I have with GURPS is that if you're playing it really cinematically, it runs smoothly. If you start getting in the real nitty gritty, you want to have it really realistic. People die all the time. People explode. Limbs get cut off, and it's just horrific. It's a friend of mine made it a real interesting point. If you have not watched Invincible is running a 4-color Marvel Comics campaign, but using the GURPS system for how you deal with combat and power interaction. Because, I blasted this guy with my laser beams. You took his arm right off. Well, crap. I fired my blast at him. You missed. You hit the building behind him. No, not Bruce Willis. Invincible, the cartoon that's on Amazon Prime right now. Well, yeah, the animated series. It's like that. That is literally the epitome of playing GURPS and playing superheroes. It's really oh my god, people are dying. Oh, I missed. I knocked over a building. Oh god. It makes sense that R.R. Martin was playing GURPS Fantasy or whatever he did to do his Game of Thrones, because GURPS is a deadly stuff. Quick story time. The gamer group, the 4 or 5 of us that play on weekends, we call it our D&D weekend. It's not all D&D. We play a lot of different systems over time. We got fixated for a couple years on running a zombie apocalypse game. So, yes, that is exactly it. mythos. And that guy that looks like J. Jonah Jameson is their Superman. Omni-Man. He's basically Superman. So we were into playing a zombie apocalypse, and I had introduced them to GURPS by running a Firefly type campaign beforehand. So they wanted to play a zombie apocalypse game because they wanted to be realistic and gritty, and so they wanted to use GURPS. I played in 3 sessions. We played this game for 3 sessions. I think we played it for a couple of sessions after, but I had to take a couple months off because my job shifted over to working on Saturdays. I played in 3 sessions. I had a different character each session because my character died every single session. Like, I was the guy that was always he's like main character now. Pff, he's dead. I guess that's not a main character. You know, it was the guest starring. Because the first character I built was this ex-army medic survivalist that got just bitten up by about 60 zombies and caught the zombie virus. And caught the zombie virus and finally killed himself when he realized the zombie virus was going to take him over. The second guy I played, I was playing a former mob hitman. That was a specialist as a pistolero, and I had my legs eaten off of me. And then when I fell, finally, when my legs are gone, then one of them latched on to my stomach and ate his way all the way up into my heart. Yeah, no, that's the beauty of GURPS. It is really a universal system. You can play about any other game in it as long as you have the rules set so that everything is like even. Like I've run superheroes, and I ran superheroes for years in that game, and you can have a great time using the cinematic variant on the rules. Oh yeah, I got nom nom. The third guy I built, oh no, the pistolero was the last guy I built. So I built the medic the first time. The second time I built a biker gang, a biker ganger that was a mechanic. That was just really good with like chains and crowbars, but he was also like a mechanic, and he brought a lot of fixing and building things and to the table. And yeah, I had zombies eat my head. They brains ate my head. Yeah, it was three different characters. It was yeah. I had Daryl, I had Merle, and I had John Preston from Equilibrium, and dead. So, yeah, I ended up having to drop the game because I couldn't play for about 6 months. It was bad. I mean, you die bad in GURPS. I ran Torg. The old version of Torg, which I really love that system. It's not a really popular, well-known system. It was back in the day. Yes, Equilibrium is amazing. One of my favorite movies of all time. Funny you mention that because right now I'm running a Shadowrun game for my friends. And one of the guys is playing a physical adept that's based on the idea of a Grammaton cleric. So he's incredibly hard to hit and he fights with pistols, and he is incredible. Hell Child, my man. So yeah, I mean, playing a Grammaton Cleric in Shadowrun works out really well because Shadowrun's, a magical, it's basically D&D cyberpunk. So it works out really well. We're having a heck of a time playing it. I just, unfortunately, the system has some limitations, and we've been playing it for long enough that we're starting to run up against those limitations. Basically, the troll samurai in the group, if I can throw somebody that can hurt and hit the troll samurai, he would absolutely paste every other person in the party by like a factor of 10. And except for maybe the Grammaton Cleric. And the Grammaton Cleric, but anybody that I can that can't take on the troll, the troll just absolutely pastes them. So there's a power difference in the party, and there's really no in-system way to fix that. And then you add along to that the idea that, Grammaton Cleric is almost impossible to hit. And it's just the way he's been built, the way we've been playing for a while, he is just impossible to hit. So what do? I got to throw mysteries at them. I love my friends, but they like to fight. So I have to throw mysteries at them that involve some fighting. But the problem is that nothing they fight is going to be a challenge to them. So I have to frame mysteries with fights to keep them interested. It's getting harder and harder and harder. And that's just a side effect of the people I play with. I love them to death. But they are power gamers, and they're munchkiny. And they don't try to be nasty. They just, that's the way they think. So, yeah, you say that, Hell Child. Lady D is the same way. That's apparently her system of choice. Again, it's a good system. The problem is the power levels of it can vary wildly. And again, and that's the biggest problem you have in just about any system these days. I've been trying to, the only way to keep people on the same page with just about every system I run into these days is to keep everything into the less fantastic. And unfortunately, that's not as appealing to playing. We're all a bunch of average schlubs. So in this game, we're going to be all playing a bunch of average schlubs, but in the Middle Ages. Or you're going to play a bunch of average schlubs, but you're fighting demons. But they're going to kill us. Yeah, maybe. And that's the problem. The certain systems, like you can go the other route. You can play things like Exalted, which I really love the concept of Exalted. But there's always that one player that figures out how to do something stupidly broken. So when you're playing a system that's designed on the idea of super high-powered fantasy, martial arts, magic, age of demigods power level, and you figure out somebody can actually do I cut the mountain in half and drop both halves on you. You're just like, Yeah, I mean that really it does really end up becoming a problem. Ray was recently running on Wednesdays. He was running a Black Crusade campaign, where one of us was beholden to, and there was four of us that were each beholden to one of each of the Chaos Gods as Space Marines. Except Slanesh, the person beholden to Slanesh was a normal human. There was a human noble knight pilot. Didn't actually have a knight yet, but he was a pretty good sniper, who was beholden to Chaos Undivided. And our leader was a word bearer who was beholden to Chaos Undivided. And the Cornet could dish out incredible amounts of damage. I, as the Nurgle Tech Marine, could take an unbelievable amount of punishment. And the Zinch guy could do some spells, but he didn't know what to do with this stuff. And our word bearer leader could shout orders. So Ray ended up having to cancel the game because it just got to a point where he didn't know what to do with us, because, between me and the Cornate, we could tag team a dreadnought pretty much by ourselves. I mean, we actually could take on a lot of stuff. But the rest of the party, if they tried to stay up there with us, they'd just die like butter. So die like melted butter. So he kind of didn't know where to go with it, and people lost the plot, so he kind of had to put it aside. So, and that's one of the real issues with role playing games. As much as I love them, balance is really hard to maintain. I mean, I've seen Vampire the Masquerade campaigns where, depending on how you're trying to run them, it's you got a bunch of Bruja, and then you got the one Ventru or the one, Caitiff that's like I'm the social person, and you got it ends up being a couple guys that do violence and a couple people that stand around and do nothing all night. And then, we get the social thing. I make a couple rolls when you are a social thing. I did my thing. Now what? Yeah, the Slanesh player was ridiculous like that. That was the human Slanesh that had so many layers of charm. She was basically a Slanesh prostitute, geisha, evil geisha. I don't know what you really want to call it. It was bad. And they literally could. It wasn't a matter of could they fail. I don't think they could actually fail, except for rolling a 95 through 100 on a die roll. Well, no, because here's the thing, and this is the thing I want to make. You're funny about it. You're funny about it, there, Mythos. I don't hate tabletop role playing games. I absolutely love them as a concept. I've had some great times playing them. I have enjoyed them. Don't get me wrong. I've really, really enjoyed them. Don't think that. I don't hate them. I have some great memories of them. I've had some of the best lines in some of them that we've ever had in games before. Things that have stuck in my social group for 25, 30 years. We were playing in a game called Torg, which is basically, think of a bunch of different realities invading Earth, a very super cinematic game. So you got guys, we're fighting in basically Egypt in a Raiders of the Lost Ark type movie setting, 1930s Egypt. One guy is a Rastafarian priest. One guy is a elven wizard. One guy's a ninja. Another one is a cyber Catholic techno priest. And one guy's a werewolf. I mean, this is the party of people that are trying to fight off these reality invaders. And the bad guys grab a truck and are trying to drive away with it. And the Rastafarian priest decides, we got to stop them, but I can't hurt people. Can't kill anything. So he grabs a chicken off of a stall at a vendor and he turns to GM. I'm targeting the windshield. I want to do an all-out vital blow with a chicken to make a paint spray so they couldn't see where they were going and they would crash the vehicle. Accidentally on purpose. Games are the only place you can say, well, accidentally on purpose. Yeah, that happens all the time. Accidentally on purpose. In that same game, the ninja went into a booth. We were convinced it was, part of the party was convinced it was a time machine. I was convinced it was a disintegration booth. So I hefted out my machine gun and was going to destroy this time machine before it killed anyone else. And when I whipped up the machine gun, the elf stood in the way. It's like, no, we have to rescue our friends with it. It's a disintegration booth. It's not a time machine. It's a disintegration booth. They're dead. No, they're really not. They're dead. I'm not going to let you shoot it. Turn the GM. Dom, is an elf considered soft or hard cover? Well, that depends on whether or not you're trying to shoot around him or shoot through him. Soft cover it is. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's part of the thing. I think especially, I don't want to sound like the old man here, but one of the big things that I like the idea of younger people playing tabletop role-playing games is because it teaches them how to socially interact. One of the reasons I was never afraid of talking to people I didn't know. One of the reasons I was never afraid of standing up and speaking in front of a crowded room or talking to a bunch of people or presenting or talking to girls was because I was already used to talking all the time. I was used to expressing myself to people. I was used to expressing myself. I used to expressing myself, whatever personality. It's what got me in the theater in high school. You'd never guess that Big D was a theater kid. You'd never guess that I did musicals and sang and danced and performed. I am an artiste. You never would have thought that, but I got that from role-playing games. So I think role-playing games are a good thing. I just think after 40 years of playing them, I'm burnt the hell out on them. And it's a weird thing to come to. that it's just not my thing anymore. And that is part of it why when you say mythos, you know, you don't want to just get rid of everything. I don't want to get rid of everything, and that's part of the reason I haven't pulled the trigger yet, because I don't want to get rid of everything, because I've had some of those first edition books since I was in junior high. I've had some of those maps and some of those things for 30, 40 years. And at this point, they're more than a gaming artifact. They're a memory. They're a physical manifestation of a memory. And I think ultimately they're a good thing. I mean, if you really want to put a fine point on it, if it wasn't for role-playing games, I wouldn't be doing this here today. You know, you forget that when I started off doing YouTube, I wasn't doing YouTube as a Warhammer 40K channel. I was doing YouTube as a crafting focused channel for making terrain for your tabletop role-playing game. Thus, you can see the church and the apartment buildings I made for that zombie apocalypse game, and the apartment buildings I've got here that I made for that zombie apocalypse game. Those are what got me into YouTube, and that's what got me back into 40K, because the people I was playing D&D with, the D&D game was breaking up, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, I got all this old 40K stuff. You ever play that anymore?" I'm like, "Well, I've been thinking about it." "Well, here, take this box. You can have it, man." And it got me back into 40K. Yeah, Hellchild, you and me are pretty close on that one. It's really interesting because, and I'm thinking about this a lot, because next month in April is my birthday. And it was my birthday in 1978 that my brother Al took me to the local hobby shop we always went to, Russ's Hobby Shop, up on 55th and Center, where he got his models and his modeling equipment. And at the time, Al and I were working on a railroad layout in the back corner of the basement. And so he had been teaching me the basics of how to do things like plaster casting and terrain painting and building buildings and weathering. And he had been teaching me that. And so for my 8th birthday, we went into Russ's, and while we were looking at, he was looking at ambulances. I remember very specifically because he was looking at there's this classic 60s Cadillac ambulance. It's this flat, long, thin ambulance. I remember him looking at that model. And I know I'm going to say this here, and Al's going to remember not only the kit, but the year, make, and model of that ambulance that he was looking at. But while we were there, Russ... Yeah, the train layout and slot car track that we were building back there. Yeah, that's exactly it. But you were looking at a kit. I remember you were looking at it wasn't I think it was Revell. It might have been Monogram, but I'm pretty sure it was a Revell kit, and it was like a 60s Cadillac hearse / ambulance, but it was the ambulance thing. It was just that long, flat, real thin looking ambulance. You were looking at the kit, and Russ, you told Russ it was my birthday, and you were going to let me pick out like a balsa wood kit. Because I used to love those. Some of you may or not be old enough to remember. They used to do these balsa wood airplane kits where you would get balsa wood and you would just you'd snap it all out and you'd push together, and there was a long bar of balsa and there was a plastic T piece, and you'd put the wings in and you'd put the cap on the front, and there was a hook on the back of the bar, and you'd put the back of the rubber band there, and you had these wheels that were on wires, and you would spin the propeller up, and then you would let it go, and then the balsa wood airplane would fly around. Yeah, there you go. So I remember there was that long white ambulance. I remember that beautiful Cadillac ambulance. But yeah, exactly. He had me pick out because there were a couple. He had a couple different of these balsa wood kits there. Al was letting me pick out a balsa wood kit for my birthday, and Russ was behind the counter and says, "Hey, it's your birthday." And he gave me, a dum dum, and he says, "Hey, Al, your kid brother likes reading. He might like this." And he had just gotten in these boxes for Dungeons and Dragons, the original box sets. And there was the basic set and the expert set and I want to say it was the companion set. And the basic box, it was bright. I want to say it was bright red. And he's like, this is like books and stuff, but it's a game. And Al picked it up. He looked at it. He handed it to me and asked what I thought of it. And I said, yeah, it looks cool. It's got dragons and stuff on it. And I was really big into The Hobbit. Hobbit had just come out. The cartoon of Hobbit had just been on TV like earlier that year. And so Al got me that instead of the balsa wood plane. And I took that box set home, and I remember I opened it up, and he sat down with me and helped me cut out because there was a sheet. There was this cardstock sheet in there with all these different monsters and heroes on it that you cut them out and they'd form like a triangle. And so they have a picture on the front and the back, and then they'd overlap in the bottom, and you put a little piece of tape on there and then tape like a penny or something on there. And he helped me cut them all out. And then I sat down and read through the rules. And within a couple of weeks, I was running it for all my friends. And we were just there because there was a module that was in the box. And it became all the rage. And that was, like I said, that was literally in April of 78. And I'll never forget that. That's, that was like the coolest thing at the time. And we're coming up on that again, and now it's 44 years later. And the rest is history, yeah. Because he did get me a model kit that year as well, because that's where I had my great love affair. My brother knew my love affair of aircraft. I love airplanes. And he got me gosh, now I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna say this wrong. It's a Spitfire. It was a Spitfire kit, but it was in this incredible pink and purple, like neon pink and kind of a lavendery purple plastic, and it didn't match. One frame was in the pink and one frame was in the purple. And we spent the entire Saturday building that thing, and I could not get the landing gear to stay on. I could not get that stupid landing gear to stay on. And I remember I went to bed and I woke up, and there was my big brother my big brother sitting at my tiny kid-sized desk, hunched over my desk. The guy's bigger than my desk. He's hunched over my desk. And he's sitting there putting these landing gear on me. And he set them up. He had a glass there. He set them up so the plane sat on top there, so the landing gear were inside the glass. And the rest of the plane sat on the lip of the glass. That is my work shirt.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, this is one of the ones that
no, that is
Grace's mom gave me.
Oh, she bought you literally an identical one of my work shirts.
Yeah, this is one Grace's mom bought me.
Okay.
I promise. No, it's a really nice shirt.
Yeah. It literally looks identical to one of my shirts that I'm missing. So we'll talk about that later. Well, I'm about to close up shop for the night, buddy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Oh. Yeah, I thought Shani was joining you tonight. I'm sorry.
No, she's injured. So, yeah. So, at Matchbox 172nd scale, I remember that Spitfire. That Spitfire sat on my shelf. We didn't paint it. We left it the way it was. It was just because it was the first model I had built without him doing things for me. You know, it was one of those, you're going to cut here, you're going to trim here. I'd show him a piece, trim more. But he let me do like everything myself. I got so, I literally was, I'm a little kid, I was 8 years old, but I was crying how upset I was about that stupid landing gear not being able to stick. So he did it while I thought I was asleep. But he got that landing gear to stick on. And that airplane sat on my shelf through the end of the 80s. And then I went in the military and it got packed up. It was packed up on my shelf while I was in the military. It was packed up on my stuff while I was in the military. And when I came back from the military, a bunch of my stuff was missing because my mom had died while I was in the military. So a lot of stuff got sold and a couple boxes of my stuff got sold. So that airplane ended up in one of my boxes along with a bunch of models our brother Greg built and detailed and had sent to me to hang on to while he was moving in between bases between Germany and Arizona. But yeah, so it's real weird when you remember things that tight detail, but that gives you an idea how much that meant to me. That whole weekend was a thing because we went to Russ's. I want to say it was on a Wednesday. No, it was a Thursday. Yeah, you know, it was a Thursday because I think we had parent-teacher conferences that day, and Mom was working, and so Al, for part of the day, because he was working the night shift, working at Milwaukee Veterans Cab at that point. So he was actually keeping his eye on me during the day that day. It was a funny day. Like I said, I remember that because I remember it was during the day we went to Russ's. It was like midday we went there. It was like he opened at like noon or something. We went there right after he opened up. So, and that's one of the reasons I love role-playing games. I mean, I love them. I don't play them anymore because I got, other things I want to do. But I still will always love them because of nothing else. They've got incredible memories of like good friends and fun times and formative memories of my family growing up. I'll never forget how supportive my mom was of role-playing games. My mom loved them. She would defend anybody that tried to call them those devil games because that was a thing in the early 80s, and people at church referring to them as those devil games. My mom's like, Al, and I can tell you, our mom was a nerd. She loved science fiction. She loved fantasy. She loved swords and sorcery. One of her favorite movies were the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movies. She loved those freaking movies. Dragon Slayer, which was a really cheesy movie, but she loved that thing with the dragon, and the dude that had the shield made out of dragon scales, so he could fight off the flame, and had the real long spear. Kirschbaum! So, she always encouraged it. And she was like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. She would always encourage it. I mean, she would have people at church that would be like, those devil games. She's like, they're books, they're imagination. There's no devil there. My son and his friends, they go and they hunt down monsters. They play good men that go hunt down monsters and save villagers. Where's devil in that? Yeah, it's true, North Carolina. Was Kevin Sorbo that popular? Was he that far back, Al? I mean, that's hilarious, but she would have loved that Hercules show and the Xena show. She would have loved those to death. I mean, I will never forget. There was like when back in the 80s when Buck Rogers in the 25th Century and Battlestar Galactica were on, they were like, you're not going to interrupt me. I'm watching this. Our mom loved nerd stuff. She loved nerd stuff. So when these ladies would talk about those devil stuff, it's like, nah, my boys are good boys. Look, he's playing with his friends. Instead of running around in the street like your boys, they're inside. They drink Kool-Aid, they eat bologna sandwiches, and they beat up monsters and do good things. What's devil game in that? My mom was super supportive of it. She wanted to know what it was about because she saw like the symbols. She's like, what's going on here? And as soon as I explained to her what she loved it. She thought it was great because we were reading and it was making us read more books. It's like because the D&D had all the novels, and then we'd go and read other books. And I mean, I already read a lot as a kid, but before D&D, I read a lot of like normal fiction and kids fiction. I got into D&D, and suddenly, I'm reading The Hobbit, and then I'm reading the A Wrinkle in Time series, and I'm reading the Chronicles of Narnia, and then I'm reading the Xanth books and science fiction, like all kinds of crazy, like old Robert Heinlein science fiction and the Foundation series, and from Isaac Asimov, and it just it blew up. And it was all because I was doing this thing that was this speculative fiction game. I mean, my mom loves Star. I mean, there's the other thing. Yeah, reading out the library, man. That was a big thing. And like my mom, I mean, perfect example. My mom loves Star Trek. She thought it was awesome. She thought it was great. She thought Star Trek was the best thing ever. It's hilarious. And when the new Star Trek started up, now keep in mind that was 87. When the new Star Trek started up, she was like, "Oh, it's back!" And she loved it to death. I mean, she was just like, that was to her, that was great. Because you got to remember, when she came to this country, it was 1950, and she learned to read and write English by reading comic books. Like, she loved Batman, and she loved Batman. She loved Superman. She loved the classic Golden Age superheroes. I remember being a kid in the 70s, and we would watch Wonder Woman, and it was all stuff she loved. She loved nerd stuff. Yeah. So, Mom raised it right. So she didn't care about that. So again, and that's all an outlet. And that all goes back to the outlet of creativity. Oh. So instead of getting anything done, we got to walk down a little reminiscent lane, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay. Because that's the thing we have to remember. We have to remember that's the big thing, that where do role-playing games come from? Role-playing games come from wargaming, but they were tempered by wargaming and the addition of fantasy novels and the rise of fantasy fiction and the rise of science fiction. And it's cool stuff. So, stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. This weekend, we will see Imperium Magazine issue number 4. We'll put that video up later this week, either before Saturday or it'll end up going on Sunday specifically. I'm also working on a basing video on doing some basing for a wet and woody area like the Pacific Northwest or Endor. So it'll be like that type of thing. I haven't worked on a basing video in a while. So we're gonna be doing a basing video really, really soon, and how to really make your place look like it's a, wet and wild west with ferns and trees and mud and water and grass and really nice and green and very naturey. So that'll be out soon. I just started working on that one as well. I'm in the midst of printing a batch of stuff, and I'm having a heck of a time getting the supports figured out for this piece. I have tried printing it now 3 times, and I have failed every time. This is the closest I've gotten, and as you can see, that nose just did not come out. So we're still working on this print. This is the 3rd one now. I have a commission for somebody who wants 6 of them, plus the other stuff. And the other stuff all prints easy, but for whatever reason, this spiky, wobbly thing is pissing me off. But the nice thing is that it is turning into a bunch of bits that I can clip up and trim up and turn into something very orcish, which is the plan for them. It's to turn those into some orcish attack vehicles of some sort. Yes, it's the Raging Hero. It's the Raging Hero transport, one of their smaller transports. It's the equivalent of the small transport or their attack bike, like not the small attack bike, but the larger, the mid-range attack bike. So, yeah, I saw those on the stream. I am telling you, Sagittarium. Honestly, speaking as an army, Sagittarium for the Custodians are a great figure. They're a good-looking model. They're very different from the other Custodians guards. On the tabletop, they're really worth the use. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Elchad. Yeah, it's the equivalent of the Viper, and it's just got a lot of spindly bits. And I don't want to use the one where it's split in a couple places because I've always had problems with those gap fitting. And then, I can get in there with green stuff. But I'm trying to do them as single pieces if I couldn't. Yeah, actually, like I said, this is the 3rd one. I've got 2 other ones. So 2 of them are at least the first one, or I should say the middle one. The middle one isn't even worth using as a crash piece. This one I might actually use as a crash piece because it's mostly together. I can snap off a wing and just drive it nose first into the ground and make a nice diorama piece out of it. The second one, the wings didn't work at all. Well, I'll let you know, because if this works, if this build I've got right now, I had to put a lot of supports in there. So I'm using like double the amount of resin I would to print it, because I've had to put that many supports to make sure all these thin and spindly wing bits get enough support so they all come out. There's a lot of, it's a really gorgeous looking model. It really is. But there's a lot of just really thin, spindly bits that they're thick enough so they got nice support once they're there, but to get them on the print is the pain in the butt. Let me see. Arthur. Oh, Arthur. Hey, everybody. This is Arthur. At the last RTT I came in, Arthur, playing his Custodies, came in second place. He's an amazing guy, really fun guy, and he just picked up the hobby a few months back. So he is just a really great guy. Everybody say hi to Arthur. Now, we discussed it a little bit for actually printing minis. Now, here's the thing: for someone to print my miniatures, no, I print my own, and I don't know anybody. I don't know any services that do. Although, Mythos Frost and Fists knows somebody specifically that does a print service. I believe that Oni does that. Now, the flip side is, are there any miniature makers that I definitely follow? You did get your printer. Okay. So, best places to get miniatures. There are 3 patrons that I highly, amazingly recommend above anybody else. Number 1 is a group called 1 Page Rules, all one word. They are not copying 40K or Age of Sigmar, but their models are like, you could easily use this for that. But they're not trying to impede the IP. They're just, oh, these are really cool futuristic dudes. These are really cool lizard men. These are really cool this, really cool that. And they have really, really great models. Their monthly patronage gives you an absolute bucket of miniatures to work from. I follow them. I love them to death. So 1 Page Rules is the number 1 guys I go with. Specifically, if you want something 40K-ish, like 40K rules type models, I would go with what are they called again? The Maker's Cult. The Maker's Cult is 3. They were 3 separate guys that were doing stuff on their own on 3D Cults and on Thingiverse and on a few different things, and they got together and they formed a collective. I don't know about surrogate miniatures. I have to go look at them. They sound cool. But Maker's Cult, they do some incredible work. They make, again, their own models. You can tell, oh, this could be used as a proxy for X or proxy for Y, but they do it without it being IP infringing. Really cool looking stuff. I'm a big fan of oh, look at that. And Sarl is another one I do know of. They do good, really good stuff. The last one specifically that I'm going to suggest is the one that Kirschbaum turned me on to. This is one of their models right here. And that would be Piper Makes. They have both a monthly Patreon and a store where they sell their STLs, and their models are amazing. Again, this doesn't look like anything in the Tau range, but if I said, hey, this is my Storm Surge, every person ever like, that's a storm surge, all right. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Piper Makes. Art, you've actually seen my alternate take on a broadside, the guy that's walking with that one like this. That's a Piper Makes as well. So yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw some links to some guys up afterwards after the video's done. So with that said, my friends, I want to thank all of you for stopping by. If you'd be so kind as to hit that like button, I really would appreciate it. Just lets YouTube know that I'm doing a good job and I'm entertaining you and, if nothing else, interacting with you in a positive and good measure. If you are not subscribed, please hit subscribe. I am so close to 700 subscribers. I am like 4 or 5 people away from crushing that 700 subscriber level. And that gets me one step closer to my dream, which is 1,000 subscribers. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal. I want to get that before I die. But yeah, I'm just a couple away. Other than that, I want to thank everyone for coming by. Thank you for popping in. Big thumbs up and all that to all of you. Much love to all you. Hope your dice all roll 6s as you need it. And until next time, stay epic.